Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I thought I'd talk about one of the great comic book artists of all time, and one of my favorites is Joe Kubert. I was watching an episode of one of my favorite YouTube channels, Suddenly Comics, when they presented their most expensive Silver Age books of all time, and one of them they were surprised to discover was Our Army at War Comics number 83, which features the first appearance of this character, Sergeant Rock. And this is one of the more famous issues, one of a crossover appearance between Sergeant Rock and another Joe Kubert creation, a guy named the Viking Prince. And you can look through this. It's a reprint issue, but still, nonetheless, it's well worth the read. It's a 30-page story featuring this crossover, a kind of mystical time warp transition between Sergeant Rock, as always beautifully drawn by Joe Kubert. Who was Joe Kubert? Joe Kubert, of course, was one of the more famous Silver Age artists, as I've said. He was born on September 18th, 1926, in what is now the Ukraine, in the Ternopil region, and he died on August the 12th, 2012. He was 86 years old. He was from a Jewish family, and Kubert's two sons, Adam Kubert and Andy Kubert, along with Emma Kubert, are all the daughter, are all artists. And I believe Katie Kubert is an editor, a comic book editor, and worked for both DC and Marvel. Joe Kubert also started the Joe Kubert School of Graphic Art, where artists like Amanda Connor and Rick Veitch, I'll pronounce it Veitch, worked and learned how to refine their craft. The best word I can use to describe Kubert's art style is to call his art style gritty, but a grittiness combined with realism. And as such, it worked best, I think, in both here in the pages of Sergeant Rock and in the character that he was deeply involved with, and that's a Hawkman. And we'll go through some of those original Silver Age issues. So you can see the artwork is, as I described, he uses very fine lines and detail to delineate his stories. His characters have what I would describe, I mean, the emotions on his characters are easily seen, especially in the face of Sergeant Rock. War comics were famous both in DC and Marvel back in the 1950s, early 1950s, late 1950s, and into the 1960s. Marvel created the Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and DC had the Easy Company, Sergeant Rock and the Easy Company. But they also had Our Army at War, and they had Enemy Ace, which is also a Joe Kubert creation. But I think everybody associates Kubert with his greatest creation, that being Hawkman and Sergeant Rock. So there you go, and there's a nice long essay by Mike Gold on Our Army at War and Sergeant Rock, and the history of Sergeant Rock and Robert Kanigher's long involvement with the character. And so, Hawkman. Hawkman, of course, was created, as everybody knows, by an artist, a journeyman artist named Dennis Neville. And his work on Hawkman lasted, I think, for one, maybe two issues. Because if you see the second issue of Flash Comics, where Hawkman first appeared back in 1940, you'll notice that you see more of Sheldon Moldoff's work than you do of Dennis Neville. So my guess is that he probably drew in the first issue. Dennis Neville's art is quite distinctive, but Sheldon Moldoff, I would argue, probably went into drawing the second, third, and following issues of the Golden Age Hawkman. And you can see some of the images here. And then in 1961, in Brave and the Bold 34, we are reintroduced to Hawkman in the Silver Age. This time, he is in the Golden Age. He was called Carter Hall, along with his wife Shiera Hall, who also dressed up as Hawkwoman. And here we have a beautiful, it's a beautiful issue, by the way, a beautiful copy of Brave and the Bold 34. It's a 10-cent issue, as you see there. And you look inside, and you have, in beautiful ink work, and you have the pages of Hawkman as drawn by the great Joe Kubert. And you see there's the image of Hawkwoman, and this is before he got his wings. That wouldn't happen until later on in Brave and the Bold. So this is number 34, and it features one of the early Silver Age villains, Bythe, who was a shapeshifter villain. And basically what happens is Hawkman follows this villain who is originally from the planet Thanagar, where both Hawkman and Hawkwoman are police officers on the planet, and they find their way to planet Earth, where the villain Bythe manages to go. And what they do is they befriend the retiring police commissioner named Emmett. And somehow they get into the good graces of this retired police commissioner, who happens to have a brother who works in a museum, and agrees to help them catch this arch criminal. This page features a letter, I believe, from it talks about Gardner Fox. It features a letter by Roy Thomas. And the second issue, number 35, also features a letter in the letters page by Roy Thomas. In this Silver Age appearance, they are police officers from the planet Thanagar. They are Katar Hall and Shayera Hall. And in the Golden Age, of course, they're Carter Hall and Shira Hall. So it's kind of a science fiction type update. As I said, this is a fine copy of Brave and the Bold 34. And here we go, the creature of 1,000 shapes. They try to find some way to capture this villain. He changes himself into some dinosaur, a Thanagarian type of creature, dinosaur, and goes to the bi-state tunnel and literally lifts it off its see there, lifts it off its moorings, dives into and they figure out how to capture the criminal and eventually return him to a Thanagarian prison. So that's issue number 34. There you see Aquaman. All right, so that's 34. And we have another 10-cent issue. This is issue 35. And here we're introduced to another arch-villain, a villain called the Menace of the Matter Master. You can tell this is a 60s comic book because the villains are quite simple and yet original, is the best way I can think of to describe them. Typical of villains from the 1960s, both in Marvel and DC. So this is the origin of the Matter Master, who can somehow manipulate. You can see his origin. He studies alchemy, the ancient lost science of, or you can say mystical science or pseudoscience of alchemy, where he learns to manipulate matter. Fox was really a student of the pulp magazines. And here you see letters from Jerry Bales and Roy Thomas from Jackson, Missouri. And here you have the story by Gardner Fox, Kubert's art, and it's called The Valley of the Vanishing Men. Basically, the Vanishing Men are the abominable snowman. And there's our two protagonists using the Absorbiscon to find out any kind of information. It's kind of a mind encyclopedia that fills them in about everything that is available, a kind of mind computer. So that's that. And there you have a little education piece about American Indians, famous ones. Jim Thorpe. All right. A lot of good things in those old Silver Age comics. A lot of good. So this is number 35. You can see, still 10 cents. And this is a a rough copy, due for an upgrade. This is the first appearance of the Shadow Thief, one of the great villains of the Silver Age, and one of the villains that was reintroduced in the pages of the volume 2 of the Hawkman series. So this is the Shadow Thief, and there you go. First story is not a Shadow Thief story. It is Strange Spells of the Sorcerer. That's another villain. But like I said, the highlight of the piece is the Shadow Thief. Love Kubert's art, his use of expression, his use of paneling was unique. You can see that it's not formulaic like the 6-paneled page. Hawkman's Roost. And there's the Shadow Thief of Midway City, one of the best arch villains of the Silver Age, in my view. This comic book, although a great reading copy, is the interior is all complete. The spine of the book is split, but nonetheless complete. All right. So that's issue number. This is issue number 36 of Brave and the Bold. And then Brave and the Hawkman went into hiatus for a while and came back again, as it says here, back by popular demand in issue number 42 in the pages of Brave and the Bold, in this story called The Menace of the Dragonfly Raiders. And you can see the image of Hawkman without his wings. That didn't come until issue number 43, when the helmet wings were reintroduced. And here it gives you a backstory of the adventures, the previous adventures. And this story takes place on the planet Thanagar. Oh, and there's the police officers of Thanagar wearing their bird helmets. The wings that they have are anti-gravity wings. Basically, the harness that they wear are anti-gravity, and the wings guide their flight. This is the police commissioner of Thanagar. This has all the elements of what I would call in science fiction, and what most people consider to be space opera, because it takes place on another planet. And the characters basically travel between Earth and this planet Thanagar. All right, so that's here, and I believe it's a return of the character Bite, the character they fought in 34. And here is where Hawkman, that's one of these key issues. This is where Hawkman gains his wings, the same wings that he used to wear in the Golden Age version of Hawkman. All right, so that's that one, and this is a 12-cent issue. This is the second to last appearance of Hawkman in Brave and the Bold, before he went on to appear in Mystery in Space with Adam Strange. So there you have George Emmett. And these are the first appearance of these guys, the villains, called the Manhawks. And here's a retro backstory of the origin of the Manhawks and Hawkman before he gained his ability to, and this is Hawkman's father. All right, so I hope you're enjoying this look through these old Silver Age Hawkman books. As you can see, when I read them, because of their value, I have to be careful. In some cases, I have to use rubber gloves because of the value of the books. Anyway, so that's that one. This is number 43. And this is one of the best covers of the Silver Age, in my view. This is Brave and the Bold presents Hawkman number 44. The Men Who Move the World. So this here is what's called a subscription crease. So when people would subscribe to these comic books, they would be sent in the mail. And of course they had to be, they didn't have to be, but they were crushed and folded together to fit in their subscription envelope, unfortunately. But anyway, this story features Earth's Impossible Day. That's a request that Hawkwoman had to Hawkman to celebrate Impossible Day, one of the feast days on the planet Thanagar. But it features some excellent artwork again by Joe Kubert, and probably Hawkman at his best. I think most people who are fans of the superhero acknowledge Kubert's work on Hawkman as the best. It was one of the last things he ended up drawing before he died. Okay, that's The Men Who Move the World. That's that story. And then we come to part 2. And you see kind of the Egyptian kind of mythos introduced or reintroduced into the story. All right. So that's the Brave and the Bold, Hawkman issues. So I hope you enjoyed the look through the history of Hawkman, a little bit about Joe Kubert, one of the great, great artists of the Silver Age and into the modern age. So if you did, remember to give me that thumbs up, the like. Thanks everyone for your subscriptions. And as you know, and as always, please feel free to comment. It all helps the channel. All right, thanks. Bye.